By the invention and operation of man-made satellites, many new technologies came to being, which opened infinite chances of making world a better place. One of them was GPS and another one was remote sensing. In today's world, if suppose you want to know whether in your area you have gold ore or petroleum reserve underground you can rely on remote sensing. And if suppose you want to know whether your area is an earthquake prone area or flood prone area, you can rely on remote sensing. By definition, remote sensing is the science and art of acquiring information about an object, area or phenomenon under study without actually being in any physical contact with them. Okay. You can study an object or an area. This is done by sensing and recording reflected or emitted energy and processing, imaginaries, analyzing and applying that pictorial representations. So what is this remote sensing? Remote sensing, as this image represents, you will be having some sensors in satellites, and using those sensors you will be acquiring data from the earth surface and will be creating a satellite imaginary, like in that image just below satellites, that using color codes and other various applications you can know the characteristics of each areas and phenomena and objects. You can again analyze and classify the information and apply for whatever purpose you want to use it. Not only satellites, you can use drones or aircrafts or even helicopters for this remote sensing. You will be having a remote sensor to acquire the energy reflected from the object or area, and you can study them accordingly. Okay. So that is the briefest form of addressing remote sensing. So now moving on to principles of remote sensing. Energy from a source propagates through the atmosphere and interacts with the object under study. This energy source will be most probably sun, and this energy means electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic waves, and the object reflects some of this energy, and this reflected energy is received by the sensor, and this sensor will be mounted on a satellite or a drone or an aircraft placed at the platform, and platform is this satellite. Based on the characteristics of this reflected energy, the properties can be studied. For example, if you are surveying an area with remote sensing and with the imagery you have developed with a satellite image with help of a sensor, for the areas where there are trees, there will be a separate pattern of energy, and for their water areas there will be a separate pattern. If there is only soil, there will be another pattern. Okay. So based on that pattern of energy, reflected energy, you can identify the characteristics of that area. That is the idea or the principle of remote sensing. One more thing, most of the things that we discuss here can be linked to photography. In photography, we are just capturing reflected light rays, visible rays. In this, you are capturing the electromagnetic spectrum of rays, much more than photography. Okay, so some terms will be familiar, some terms will be not. Okay. Process of remote sensing. It is just the order of occurrence of our steps while doing remote sensing. First one, energy source. Sometimes sun is considered, majority times sun is considered as energy source, whereas in some other remote sensing systems, the remote sensing platform itself produces energy. For example, satellite or this aircrafts can produce some energy and reflect it back. Second one, this energy from the source interacts with the atmosphere. That may be in benefit or sometimes not in benefit of our remote sensing process, but that part is inevitable, interaction with the atmosphere. Third one, interaction with the earth surface feature, that is the object, the area with which we are studying. If suppose we are considering a state of Kerala, our object or earth surface feature is Kerala, and after interaction some portion of this energy will be reflected back, and hence the fourth one, recording of energy by the sensor. This reflected energy will be recorded by the sensor mounted on the platform, in whichever platform we are using. Then if it is a satellite, processing and transmission of this imagery will be done. The energy received is processed into different data products like pictorial or digital products and transmitted into the stations. If it is a satellite, there will be ground stations in contact with the satellite and it will be sent to those ground stations in pictorial format. There will be certain colors for all the patterns, and from that digital image you can extract informations. Process F, interpretation and analysis. This received data by ground station is analyzed to extract information about the project. If it is flood characteristics you are studying of a state or a country, that ground station will be analyzing that characteristic and will be extracting information from that digital imagery. Okay. Last one, application. For whatever purpose you have been doing all these things, you will be applying this imagery or the extracted information for that purpose. Maybe we will start planning on a dam or a barrage for stopping flood, or we will start on giving notices for local authorities about this imagery or the information we have extracted. Okay, that is the application. So in brief, these are the processes should be undertaken for remote sensing. Okay, next one. So this is a pictorial representation of this process of remote sensing. First, energy source, electromagnetic energy to the object, and reflected back energy is captured by the sensor on a satellite, and data is transmitted towards ground station, and that data is supplied to multiple users for analysis and application. Okay, that's it. So what is this energy that is being transmitted to the atmosphere and hitting the object and reflected back? Electromagnetic energy sources are used for remote sensing mainly. Electromagnetic waves consist of an electric field and a magnetic field. You already know that. That will be mostly perpendicular to each other. Electromagnetic waves travel at a speed of light. Wavelength of electromagnetic waves will be the length of one wave cycle, and frequency will be the number of cycles passing per unit time. Electromagnetic spectrum. There are many electromagnetic waves in spectrum, from shorter waves, X-rays and gamma rays, to longer waves, microwaves, radio waves, etc. This is a list or a tabular form by which you can understand the whole set of electromagnetic waves. Some characteristics of UV rays, visible rays, infrared rays, microwaves are given. This is electromagnetic spectrum. Wavelength increasing from 10 raised to minus 16 to 10 raised to 8 meters. Here you can see the fraction of visible light in between this large area. You can see that colored range between UV rays and IR rays, that is from 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers, starting from violet to red. If in photography we will be using only this 400 to 700 nanometers, in remote sensing we will be using the whole set from 10 raised to minus 16 to 10 raised to 8 meters. Okay, so that is the range of values or information that you can acquire from remote sensing process. Next one, how does this energy interact with our atmosphere? During propagation of electromagnetic energy through the atmosphere, some will get scattered away, absorbed, and some parts travel through the atmosphere and reaches the earth. This traveling through part will be only beneficial for us. Only if it gets traveled into the atmosphere and reflected back from the object in the surface of earth, you will be getting information, right? So this scattering and absorption is a loss in concern with remote sensing. This loss of scattering is due to the presence of large gas molecules, some energy being scattered. It depends on wavelength of the wave, abundance of particles in the atmosphere, and distance to travel through the atmosphere. We will just go through the classification and types. Types of scattering. Rayleigh scattering occurs when particles or gas particles in the atmosphere area is smaller than the passing wavelength of radiation. There will be Rayleigh scattering. Mie scattering is when both are equal. Non-selective scattering is when gas particles are larger than the wavelength of these passing radioactive waves. Second type of loss with the interaction of atmosphere for electromagnetic rays, absorption. Molecules present in atmosphere absorb electromagnetic energy at various wavelengths. Ozone, carbon dioxide and water vapor absorbs this energy. Ozone absorbs UV rays, CO2 absorbs infrared rays, and water vapor absorbs longer waves of IR and shorter waves of microwave. So these are the losses. Now our beneficial part, interaction with the surface feature. After scattering and absorption, a portion of electromagnetic rays reach the surface feature of our object, and even at object itself, some of it will be absorbed by the object, transmitted, and some part will be reflected by the object. For example, water will be transmitting most of the energy and reflecting very less. A rock will be reflecting much more and transmitting very less. Okay. So some part of this energy will be absorbed by the object and some part will be transmitted through the object downwards, and the remaining will be reflected back. So by principle of conservation of energy, EI, the total energy of that incident ray, will be equal to EA plus ET plus ER. EA is absorbed energy, ET is transmitted energy, and ER is reflected energy. So this reflected remaining energy is what we are concerned of. Our sensor in the satellite will be capturing this reflected energy, and then it will produce imagery. Reflection on object may be of two kinds: specular reflection and diffusion reflection. It's very simple. Specular reflection is when an object reflects an energy like a mirror, like the first diagram. That is specular reflection. Diffusion reflection is quite opposite. It is not like a mirror. The incident ray is diffused like a flower, or it reflects to all angles, all directions. So the sensor has captured the reflected energy, and now we will examine it. The ratio between energy reflected to incident energy is known as spectral reflectance. It is the reflectance characteristic of Earth's surface. As this ratio increases, there will be more characteristics or more parameters can be drawn from the reflectance value. With this reflected energy, we will draw or plot a spectral reflectance curve. It is a graph between wavelength and the spectral reflectance. Using that curve, you will identify what type of portion or what type of object that we are examining. Based on this curve, you will differentiate each object of an area. For example, if you are remote sensing an area, using this curve, you can identify whether at a particular point, whether it is a tree or a pond or a soil strata. Okay. This is a typical reflectance curve with x-axis as wavelength in mu meter right in this, and percentage reflectance on y-axis. Reflectance characteristics of vegetation. Okay, so we have a reflectance and we plot a curve with it, and now we want to differentiate the area or the object with respect to this curve. Okay. In this given curve, that solid line is vegetation. Due to the presence of chlorophyll in leaves, in digital imaginary there will be green light or green color. Characteristics of curve are wavelengths 0.7 to 1.3 mu meter, it reflects up to 40% to 50%. Energy is absorbed or reflected with no transmission at wavelength greater than 1.3 mu meter, and dips are observed at 1.4, 1.9 and 2.7 mu meter because water in leaves absorb at these wavelengths. Peak is observed at 1.6 and 2.2 mu meter. Okay. So, the thing you should understand is, you know these characteristics, right, 3 or 4 points, and suppose if you are taking a reflectance curve of an area using remote sensors, and suppose you are getting this shape with these particle values, with these dips and with these peaks at 1.6 and 2.2, that means you have surveying a vegetation. That area is of vegetation area. Okay, it's that simple. If you have these characteristics, you can identify vegetation. Next one, reflectance characteristics of soil. The reflected characteristic of soil depends on moisture content, decreases reflectance, organic matter, absorbs radiation and show low reflectance, soil texture and surface roughness, mineral content like iron oxide decreases reflectance. Okay. So, this is all a broad classification or broad characteristics because there are many varieties of soils available, as you know. Like in this given reflectance curve, you will get details of 100% sand, 25% and 75% sand and organic sand, 50% organic sand, etc. Okay. So, for each types of variation of soils, you will be having varied number of reflectance curves. So, you have to identify each of them with each of these varying values. If you are getting the quantities or values of sand, 100% sand, you identify it as 100% sand. If you get 50% of organic sand, you will identify it as organic sand. Okay. In that way, you will identify all the particles according to the sensors given to you. Reflectance characteristics of water, the last one. As you can imagine, water will be showing low reflectance because most of the energy will be transmitting into the water. So, very low percentage of incident energy will be reflected back to collect for the sensors. So, water absorbs longer waves and shorter waves. Water appears blue due to the stronger reflection of shorter waves including blue. Water with suspended sediments reflects better and it appears brighter because as the particle reflects more energy, it will appear that water is reflecting more energy. Okay. Water with algae absorbs blue and reflects green and it appears greenish as in vegetation curve. So, these are the characteristics of reflectance curve of water. So, you should know that if you have the characteristics and if you see that characteristics on a curve that is captured by a sensor, you should know that that is that particle matter. If it is water, that is water, and soil, that is soil. Okay. The informations in this slide are already we know of. Sensor record re-emitted energy electronically as an array of numbers in digital format based on their brightness. Sensor processes the data and send to the ground antenna. Okay. And there are platforms. On platforms, we mount sensors. Platforms are meant to carry sensor. Based on the height, the platform are classified as ground based platforms, height up to 50 meters, for example buildings. Airborne platforms, height up to 50 kilometers, like aeroplanes, and space based platforms, that is most common, height up to 36,000 kilometers, obviously used by satellites. So, you can use helicopters or buildings or light planes, satellites, space shuttles even. According to the height, you will get varied amount and characteristics with the sensor. What object that we are surveying on or remote sensing on and how much quantity of data do we need decides on this of platform. As we have already discussed, this remote sensing can be linked to a certain extent to photography. Okay. So, remote sensing resolution is the resolution ability of remote sensing system to record and display finer details, as in a camera sensor. In a camera, resolution is the ability to capture more lights vividly. The same thing, you will be having more types of parameters to assess because it is around 50 or 60 times more data reading and amount calculations than a photography sensor. So, we have different resolution terms used in remote sensing: spatial resolution, spectral resolution, radiometric resolution and temporal resolution. Spatial resolution is the most important one. It is the ability of remote sensing system to capture smallest possible feature, like in pixels. It is the size of smallest image elements. Spatial resolution depends on instantaneous field of view or IFOV. IFOV is just the angular cone of visibility of sensor, and it determines the size of the area on the earth's surface which is seen from given height. So, as you can imagine, as in linked with the diagram, as the height increases, IFOV increases. At the angle decreases, IFOV decreases. Okay. You can see with the image. Second one, spectral resolution. It is the ability to sensor to resolve spectral feature into separate components. In other words, it is the ability to define fine wavelength interval, that is how much vividly or clarity in which you can distinguish between two wavelengths, that is spectral resolution. It is the ability to differentiate separate waves like blue, green, red, etc. So, as the spectral resolution increases, you can identify more and more differentiable characteristics, and hence you can identify more and more varied components. So, in here water and vegetation are distinguished by very broad wavelength ranges. Different rock types are identified with this resolution, spectral resolution. Multispectral sensor is to record energy over several separate wavelengths. Okay. It is the type of sensor used in relation to spectral resolution. Third one, radiometric resolution. It is the ability to discriminate very slight difference in energy or brightness. It distinguishes between grayscale values, that is very minute brightness level values. An 8-bit sensor can distinguish 256 different grayscale, whereas 4-bit sensor can only distinguish between 16 grayscale values. This is how radiometric resolution matters. For a 2-bit or 4 radiance levels, this left one is the image you get. For 8-bit or 256 radiance levels, you will get this wonderful picture. Okay. So, the finer the radiometric resolution as a sensor, you will get better and better varied in clarity pictures or digital images. Last one is temporal resolution. It is the precision of an image with respect to time. It depends on how often an image is collected. It is used to identify the changes on features with time. Okay, if suppose what is the rate of deforestation in an area, or what is the rate of flood coming into an area, or a wildfire causing an area, forest, etc., you will be analyzing with this particular resolution. We are getting into last of our topic, multispectral scanning. How do we scan this area? If suppose we have a strip of land with 1 acre width and 20,000 acres of length, how do we scan this area? Okay, that is the difference. It is a scanning system used to collect data over a variety of different wavelength ranges. There are two modes. First one is across track scanning and second one is along track scanning. Across track scanning, or in other word, whisk broom scanner. As you can see in the image, that is whisk broom. So, if you are supposed to clean an area with a whisk broom, you will clean going forward by lateral movements. You will go from left to right one time, then took a step forward, then again left to right one time, and then again a step, then left to right. Okay. So, likewise we move forward. That method of scanning is across track scanning. So it scans the area from right to left. It is done by using rotating or oscillating mirror to scan the terrain in series of lines. So for each sections, this mirror will be rotating from right to left, then again to the next strip, and from again right to left, then forward. Okay. So next one, along track scanning, or in other words push broom scanner. As you can see in the image, that broom is push broom. You won't be oscillating or moving laterally, you will be just moving forward. If the direction of movement is forward, you will just push through that movement, no lateral movement. That is push broom scanning or along track scanning. It consists of linear array of detectors. It records one entire line at a time. So there will be no movements or rotations of mirrors in scanning or sensors. You will just move through the strip of land that you are surveying and get these energy values. This is another image of across and along track scanning. Left one is across track scanning with a mirror, rotating mirror with right to left oscillation, and second one along track scanning, just pushing through the area. Okay. So that was remote sensing introduction and other brief explanations. So I hope you understood. Thank you.